Vikings led 9-0. Washington scored 24 unanswered points. Tough game here, and here is RG3. He's going to run for the first down, and still on his feet. RG3 is going to outrace everybody.
Inside their own 20 this afternoon. They are trailing the Texans 14-7. Gabbard cannot find anyone. Try to secure that football as he runs it out.
Hello, and welcome to the official Madden League 20 podcast. I am your host, Dave Randlett. With me, my co-host, Tyler Johnson.
Yo.
And our special guest today, friend of mine, former co-worker, drafter of Vincent Velez himself, and current manager of Drew Lock. It is Jordan Swanson. How are you?
I am great. Pleasure is mine to be here
Oh,
for the first time.
Yeah,
ever invited, even though I've wanted to for a long time.
When was the last time you were on a podcast at all? I don't think...
I've never been on a podcast. I've never been invited. I've hinted since the beginning of podcasts, so...
Well, this is your lucky day, and what a time to join after your most recent expedition into the world of football.
I would love to break that down a little bit.
Yes, let's we'll get there. We'll get there. So, welcome everyone who's joining us today. We're going to be talking about the file so far. We're going to be talking about the game so far, and we're going to be talking about where everyone's at. So I guess we'll start right off the bat. And what do you guys think so far of the Madden21 game itself right now?
I will defer to Tyler at first.
All right. Well, I feel like everybody that started it, their first few games, was like, wow, this is a lot harder. Because I know in my games, I was throwing like 6-7 receptions every time.
Well, that's
learning
rookie
that that the old tricks don't quite work, and things that used to be open aren't, and the adjustment is kind of nice to kind of put you back, and especially with players not being insanely rated. But overall, it's been a few of the changes are pretty nice. Not enough to be too happy, but I'll take it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. What about you, Jordan?
So, as a football fan, I believe it is a decent upgrade to what we were doing. In playing this one, Madden, what are we on? Madden 20 was, just feels more arcadey.
Right.
And as a football fan, I can appreciate the improvements on the change of direction. But as a Madden player, as someone who enjoys scoring points or making big plays, it is a big disappointment. Early on, obviously, I lost a large game against Dustin, who arguably was one of the best players in the last file. Granted, I think he had a pretty good jump on it, getting the file early, game early.
Yep.
I just downloaded it like
a couple days ago, right?
The day it started.
Yeah.
The day it started, pretty much. But he was just worlds ahead on understanding the change of direction, which I feel is like one of the main, if not only, huge differences. But it's an effective change, and as someone who kind of had little quirks to make big plays happen, it is definitely something I will have to adjust my game to. In playing the CPU Steelers this morning,
looked like you had a better handle on things.
So I did not have a better handle of things on the first half. It was 20. Well, I forget what they scored, but
I think he cut out for a second.
Did we lose him?
Yeah, he said he would be in and out, so he may have popped
right.
out. Yeah, no, I was going to give my thoughts. Is that okay?
No.
Oh, okay, that's fine. What do you have to say?
Yeah. I was gonna say, Dave, what are your thoughts?
Oh, awesome. So my thoughts, it definitely is an adjustment. I really enjoyed the gameplay of Madden 20. I didn't feel like it was...
I apologize. I was dropped.
Oh, not a problem, not a problem.
all
Did you
right.
want to finish your thought?
Where did I leave off?
You left off about you were
Change
down
direction.
20-something against the
Oh,
Steelers.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, Steelers.
Yeah, so, the first half was just atrocious. I got lucky with a tight end touchdown by Noah Fant, and then I was shut down. But I did feel that I started figuring it out. But just right now, I'm forcing old habits, and I'm going to have to adjust appropriately.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah, just
definitely...
took time.
I feel like it was an adjustment getting into this game. The passing game has altered, and I've heard from several guys in the league saying, I don't understand why I can't hit guys. They're open, and then it's either too late or the defensive back comes out of nowhere and gets it. What I found is, more so in this game than in previous games, you really have to throw the ball before he is evidently open. It really is a read the field and throw before it shows itself.
you gotta know what your guys can do and where
Yeah.
their strengths are and act accordingly.
Yeah, it seems like they've really made things more precise. Where I think you were right, Madden 20 was a little bit more loose with the player types making the plays, whereas this seems much more precise, which I like. It is more difficult, though.
Oh yeah.
And
But-
if I can add,
Yeah.
being down 24-0 at half, or 24-7, whatever it was, at half, as kind of counting that game out at that point, just because anything I felt I was trying was not working. And I think at that point, Ben Roethlisberger was 12 for 12 and like
Oh, wow.
213 yards or something.
Yeah.
I started user locking because I counted it as a loss.
Yeah.
And if you have a hot route that you aren't locking onto, otherwise, if another receiver that you aren't locked to is the hot route, the QB will throw it to them, and you are counted out completely. So,
Oh, interesting.
That was not the case last file.
Oh, that's interesting to know.
So, just user lock has also been, if there's a hot route, that's where he's looking.
It's been adjusted.
It has been adjusted, and I think it has been, improved to the point where you aren't controlling the QB if you aren't locked on, which I think was one of the main issues with it. So
Oh, that's
that was
good to know. That's good to know.
In playing around, again, I took the loss and whatnot. So ban me if you must.
you almost came back in that game too, right?
I did. I lost by a field goal. I got greedy at the end because I wasn't going to kick a field goal to tie. So,
Well, that
but
just sounds just
balls
like
to the wall or retreat. So
that
my-
is why
that's my
I
game
love
plan.
you in this game and in this file. You bring an ingredient that doesn't exist without you. So Ty, did you have any further thoughts on the game?
Well, one thing that I really liked, and I actually unfortunately had to do a lot of digging on to figure out everything about it, is the new pass rushing mechanics. One, I find that really interesting because
It's more intuitive.
you can have you have the certain amount of moves that a certain player can do. So like lower rated guys, you can't just keep spamming it with them. Higher rated guys, they have more successful things. And one thing that I thought was actually a really cool move, and I can't believe that it wasn't something they weren't like really advertising, is the offensive linemen in this game. If you've noticed those little like ticks below them.
Oh,
When it
yeah, little dots.
When it glows like on either side.
We'll throw
And
one of
it's,
those
like,
pictures
really
on the
bright.
screen right now, so people can see at home.
if it's that's the offensive lineman learning the moves of the person they're facing off against.
So they're
So
like
that's
actually
really-
experiencing the other linemen and gaining experience against them?
Yes, so it's like if you keep going, if you're an edge rusher and you keep trying to go around on the right and you keep trying to do a swim out, they're gonna learn and they're gonna beat those more successfully each time you try it.
Oh,
And
interesting.
then, that's when you try the inside move because then it doesn't have a glowing thing there. But
That's
a
an
good
amazing
way to,
feature.
yes, it actually is really cool.
EA did
And
something.
They did, and they didn't make a big deal out of it, which blows my mind.
Like, why wouldn't
and
they announce that if they're getting
I-
so much crap? Like, hey, we did something cool.
Yeah, I looked it up, and it's like a small little footnote in a few things, and it's barely talked about, and it's actually like a really cool mechanic.
Yeah,
So their
one thing I
marketing
like
team
about
is
it-
just as good as their.
Yeah.
it's their development team.
Yeah.
Yes.
What I like about it is just like in the real NFL, it encourages you to rotate your guys. If it's a key third down and like all of your defensive linemen have been figured out, what do you have to lose just swapping in some new fresh people at the edge there? And then
Well, it gives
you know,
it gives some backups, maybe some more opportunities too.
exactly, it gives them that opportunity because they're fresh, and then the linemen are going to have a lower chance of success there, even though it may
Interesting.
be a better player there. They are going to get nullified if they keep facing off against the same guy each time. That's a big reason why some people are having issues with sacks, I feel like. Because offensive linemen learn a little bit more in this way. So having the same matchups and people doing the same moves on the line, that's going to get... that's not as easily abused this time, which I think is a really, really great addition.
I think go ahead.
To that point, one thing in my CPU game week 2, Von Miller, who has Fearmonger as his ability or his X Factor.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's Spike Week. He got to the point where he was, what do they call it, on fire or in the zone. In the zone.
Yep.
And he, I believe, got 3 sacks in a row.
Oh wow.
And
Oh, he's in and out on us. It's bike week, he said. So
Oh,
you know,
darn.
gets crazy
yeah.
over here with all those motorcycles cutting his feeds.
Yeah, but...
Yeah, no, the one thing I was going to say with offensive linemen, it would be nice if they, made them capable of injury. That's my only problem with that, is they can't go down unless you have like 3 or 4 linemen in one section.
Wait, what do you mean by that?
hello?
Hey,
I don't know why I keep getting cut out. I apologize.
it's the
No,
bikers.
it's
We
all right.
decided it's the bikers.
Where'd I leave off?
You were talking about Von Miller getting 3 sacks.
Yeah, so it was 2 in a row. Once he got in the zone, as not even using him, my main thing is, if you've played me, I like to put in a spy, and that spy basically is just a free roamer. And he ended up getting 2 sacks in a row, and it didn't stop until they were running the ball.
Oh wow.
So that's, after Ty bringing that up, I wasn't sure, what was the deal with that, because maybe he might have been using the same moves, but
Or maybe
It
he's
seems
just that
silly.
good, so it doesn't matter.
maybe that's the case.
No, I was saying, I was talking about how it never seems like offensive linemen get injured in the game, and I don't know if that's because if you only have 2, they're not capable of getting injured. But I wish if they're going to learn defensive linemen, at least I think there should be a chance that they can go down.
Against
Actually,
Dustin, he had.
they're getting hurt more now.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
Dustin had one
I've
get
had-
injured
I've had
week
it-
1.
You had it happen twice in your game, Dave. I watched it. Isaiah Wynn went down, and another offensive lineman went down for a little while. It
Frig,
happens more
actually,
now.
wow, you're right. I didn't even,
It actually does happen more now. Yeah, that's why I was asking, because I'm like, that's one thing I've noticed. Linemen
Oh
get
man,
hurt now.
you're right. Because
Yeah.
Cannon went down, and then Isaiah. Yeah, dang,
Dustin's
I forgot about
O
that.
lineman got injured on a false start play.
Well, that's an impressive achievement in his career.
That was the only thing I accomplished in week 1.
Wow, was it like a false snap and he just fell over? Like, what the hell is
I'm
that?
not sure.
Oh man, awesome! Yeah, so the
Just,
highlight feature is pretty cool.
Yeah,
pass
just
rush.
to interject. Yeah, just to interject a little bit about Von Miller. He
Yeah.
has an ability where when he gets a sack, all of his pass rush move points get restored. So that's a big part of that. Once he gets a sack, he like completely replenishes. So it's kind of a reason to kind of force that sack to get that, and then the X Factor ability, because then he'll be ruthless.
So he's really a good tool for pass rushing in general, which we already kind of knew.
Yeah, the snowball type. Once he gets that first sack, then it's keep getting worse.
In real life, he's not playing now, right? He's out for the year.
Yep, that's true. Yeah, so sorry, Jordan,
We're gonna injure him for you and make you send him out.
I think that's the least of everyone's worries right now.
Ty, did you want to bring up your highlight plug?
Yes. So I'm taking it upon myself to do 2 projects throughout the season, and I've already started on both, to where I'm going to be doing my own Cardinals highlight video through the season, and then I'm going to do one for the league. I've already got a number of people that have sent me some, so it's already started. There are 2 ways that people can do it to make it easy for me, and honestly, the first way will be my preferred, just because people are generally streaming, so it's going to work out. But either give me the timestamps of the plays that you want to be highlighted, and then I'll be able to make clips of them on Twitch and download those clips, or at the end of the game, at the end of the stream, just go back and rewatch all those videos, or all those plays, and then I can just cut off the end and then use those. And then the other way to do it is if you're not streaming, by doing the Xbox record clips button, and then giving me a link to your Xbox DVR.
Oh, that okay. So
and then I can download those. Yeah. So
how fast does the DVR upload to the website?
Well, when I do it, if I have space, it's in minutes.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah. Like I did it, and then I closed my game, and then I could pull it up, and then it's there on the website. So unless it's like a 5-minute clip, it might be a little bit longer, but it's pretty fast.
Also for reference sake, do you plan to do like quarterly highlight videos? Do you plan to do an end of season highlight run? What are you looking to do with it?
Entirely depends on how much I get. If I
so
get a
it's
lot,
content
I'll do
dependent.
Quarterly. Yeah, exactly. I can't do a quarterly highlight if only 2 people are sending me highlights.
That makes sense.
If I get a bunch of them and I'm like, okay, this is
best of week 3 or something. Yeah.
Yeah. If I get consistent highlights, I'll make more consistent videos. But it's all dependent on the content I get.
That's fantastic. I think that'll be a great feature. We've had guys do this in the past, but either one, they weren't getting enough footage, or there was inconsistency on their part. So I think, especially with you being such a prominent member and people are all plugged in right now, I think it should be a good feature.
Yeah, and I totally get that. Like, it's a hassle, like, going through those, and also you forget. Because I've been wanting to do stuff like this for a while, but
right.
I generally don't think about it after an intense game. But once you start doing it, it just becomes a habit. Yeah.
The tough part on my side is I'll record it, a play that I deem a highlight.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then you have to go into like that Xbox Studio, whatever it be, to upload it. It doesn't just upload once you actually record the clip.
Huh, it does for me. That's weird. There might be a setting on that.
Okay. We'll DM about that.
Yeah, because I think
all right, cool,
I went and just clicked, like, there's a button on the main menu where it's like record the last 15 seconds or whatever, and then it just automatically saves to my thing, and you can go right to DVR, and there it is.
Gotcha.
So yeah, while we're all here, Jordan, let's start with you. How did your preseason go, and what are your thoughts on your team right now?
Okay, so if we were talking Madden 20, my team would be better than the Super Bowl team that I had with the Colts.
Right.
When we stepped into the season, I saw my team. I made a few big trades, not too many. I didn't go overboard. But I have experience in all the positions that I like. In Bradley Chubb and Von Miller on the outsides, where I don't necessarily like to use. And then I made a play on a decently quick, large receiver.
Sure.
In Chark,
Yep.
who has been nothing but disappointing in catching and both holding.
That's Chark
the
right
ball,
there.
Holding.
Little Chark. He's back.
Chark Jr.
Where'd you lose me?
We were just listening to Chark call out to Daddy.
So yes, another.
I'm right
special
here,
guest.
baby Chark.
Rolling once his egg. How about you start with Ty? I'll be back in 10.
Sure, that's fine.
All right.
Ty, let's talk about your preseason and your team where it sits right now. How do you feel about it?
Well, I only really got to have, I believe, one user game in the preseason, so everything is against the computer, and that can create false confidence. But
Yeah.
I gotta say, I'm starting to develop a run game, and I'm expecting that to be absolutely embarrassed and crushed in 2 hours when I play Justin. All that good
You're
feeling
gonna be
about my
rethinking your
running
team
game.
in 3 hours.
Yeah, I'm gonna be all like, oh wow, that those 20 rushing yards were, what a great game. I feel great, but I've definitely had to adjust to the new Madden, and I still don't have the deep game figured out. So I've become much more of that West Coast, like, quick passing, option trickery offense more than usual, just because I don't have that deep game to rely on.
Yeah. I'm sure you still have wrinkles mixed in, though.
Oh yeah. I still try, even when it ends up being a bad idea 80% of the time.
But
defense-
overall, you're happy with your team?
Overall, yeah, defense is tough though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna be bad for a while to getting used to this. Luckily though, Isaiah Simmons is gonna keep getting better, making plays, so that'll be fun.
And you have Lattimore back there again now this year, right?
Yep. Him and Chidobe Awuzie.
Who just signed a new deal.
Yep, 5 years. So him and Buddha's about to sign a 5-year deal next week. So him, Lattimore, Awuzie,
That's your
and
defensive
Simmons
backfield right there
are
for
all
years.
gonna be, yeah, they're all good.
Oh, it looks like we lost Ty now. So it's just me talking right now. Jordan stepped away and Ty's faded out. So I'll talk about my preseason. So I was able to play all 4 games of the preseason and really just tinker and learn the game. And I'd played a few head-to-heads beforehand. But it went well. I was kind of spending the time learning the game and learning my roster, especially on the depth side of things. And so just going through the preseason, I really get to learn.
Okay.
Welcome back, Ty. I was going on about my team now.
Okay, I disappeared. Yeah.
I was talking about. So I had. It was just me for a minute. I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
I took a swig of beer and I'm like, well, I better just go. So yeah, I spent a lot of time just kind of exploring the depth of my team, which led me to discover that Jared Stidham's time in New England was over. Between having Cam Newton on the team and then I signed Blake Bortles in free agency, who for a backup he's not bad. And then I got Cole McDonald from Hawaii, and for a 59 rated rookie quarterback, he's a lot of fun to use. He has some promise. He was just flat out better than Stidham, who was like a point above him overall wise. And so I'm like, you know what? I'll get rid of the cheap quarterback on a 3-year deal, whatever was left. I wasn't a fan of him in real life. I wasn't a fan of him in the game. And Cam Newton was just obviously the most capable starter on the team. Yeah. So going through preseason, I really just learned them. I learned the receivers and where I needed to put those pieces because the Patriots have a weird setup at receiver this year. And then just tinkering with the defense, which really did not need too much tinkering because the Patriots have a decent defense. So my preseason went well, and right now where I feel with my team, I picked up my one free agent I picked up early was defensive tackle Marcel Darius, because I was concerned about the run game and stopping them, because the Patriots really haven't replaced Wilfork since he left, and so they don't really have a true nose tackle. They've like brought in guys for 2 or 3 years here and there, but there was no real big guy up front, and Marcel Darius just looked like a juicy pickup. And so I grabbed him, and we'll get into my game against Andy in a little bit, but it was really important that I had him in that game. And so far I feel good about my team. Am I going to light it up offensively? I never really have, and I don't expect to. But I think where the team is at, I can, for the most part, play my kind of ball. But of course, I don't think anybody has their team exactly where they want it in year one. So
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's my team. Did you have anything else you wanted to add about the Cardinals, Ty?
Just I guess I kind of related about both our teams. What made you pick give me a second. Trent Taylor over Jacoby Myers?
Oh, I saw you picked him up off the practice squad.
Yeah, I saw him there, and I'm like, I can't say no to that.
So I had experience with Trent from my Jaguars franchise last file, and he really is kind of the de facto Danny Amendola replacement, as far as he's not Edelman, he's not going to carry the load, but he's that next up little white receiver that can just go up high despite his small size and get the ball. He really is just kind of crafty, and I liked him from then, and so I wanted him here. And so when I saw he was available, Jacoby Myers kind of lost a spot. So yeah, I'm glad he ended up on a team though, because I do like Jacoby.
Yeah, he'll. I'm definitely gonna try to make him to somebody.
I saw he's kind of the last man in on that. He made the team, but he was barely in there.
Yeah, but Fitz is gonna retire, and then
True.
That wide receiver 4 spot's pretty open.
Yep. Yeah, no, it was Trent Taylor was just kind of familiarity. I like what he brings, and he's just kind of a safety valve, especially if somebody goes down. So
yeah, that makes sense. Let's get into some of these trades that have happened.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk. There's some juicy trades out there dating all the way back to preseason. Let's start right off the bat, and I know shout out to Drew and Dustin's podcast. Great show in their first episode, and I really enjoyed the content they provided. But they had some things to say about the Miami and New Orleans Saints trade. Jameis Winston, a 1 and a 2 go to Miami for Tua and wide receiver Preston Williams. Ty, what'd you think of that trade?
Well, it was one of those to where it kind of worked out for both. I think it was a nice trade because Andy didn't really have an attachment to Tua, and then also being left-handed, that's just a whole different challenge to have.
Yes.
So, like giving him to Dustin so that can be the replacement to Breeze. That was a good move, especially with how the whole cap situation on that team is. And I expect the Saints to make more moves because they're not going to be able to keep everybody still.
Right.
So,
right. They just had to move players.
Yeah. My only issue with that is it seemed like he didn't get much playing time in
the preseason?
The first game. Well, Tua didn't get much playing time in the Week 1 game.
Is he starting Breeze over Tua, year one?
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Gotcha.
So that's probably the biggest question mark of that is with
Do you force Tua in now and get him developed right up, or do you let Breeze play and see how you do with him?
Yeah, it's definitely it's one of those things to where I feel like the right answer would be to mix them both in.
It's an interesting, especially in Dustin's position. It's a very interesting decision because I think Dustin, in one hand, wants to win now before he has to make more moves. And so you start the absolutely better quarterback, but then you are stunting, not much, but you are stunting to his development to an extent by not playing him as much during the season then.
Yeah, more than even real life, you don't get better with a clipboard in your hand. So
it really is an interesting position, especially for Dustin, who I think because of his team, I think there's room for both arguments. I mean, he likes Tua, but at the same time, I mean, do you trade Breeze? Do you keep him? And if you keep him, you're paying him. So do you start him? Like, it's just what would you do? I mean,
yeah. Well, they're paying him regardless because all that contract is bonus. So even if he trades them, it's only gonna hurt the team more. So
that's a good point.
It's kind of like Breeze has to be there,
mm-hmm,
but because you trade for Tua, you can't let his rookie year be entirely on the bench. I don't know if this is like a wait for him to get a little bit better and then he starts the second half type of situation or what. But
which could be an option, especially. I mean, you'll have a better feel on how your season's going.
Oh yeah. I just think, and maybe
I could see that in real life happening.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like he should get implemented into the offense in some ways, and even if it's only like a few drives a game,
mm-hmm.
And then you maybe run a few read options with him and do some RPOs. Do some of the stuff you can't do with Breeze when you put him in.
Sure.
Just so you have that extra.
Just so he's getting snaps per game.
Exactly, the chance to get some stats, make some impact, get some development out of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I wanted to. Because I know Drew really thought Dustin had blown this trade, and him and Dustin O had kind of commented on the trade in their podcast, and I just wanted to give my 2 cents because it was interesting. Just I really enjoyed the perception of value that everyone has when talking about trades, especially on controversial trades like this one. And they were saying that Andy had handedly won the trade, getting Jameis Winston a 1 and a 2, while Dustin got Tua and Preston Williams. And I kind of made the argument in chat, and I'll make it again here, that you're not like Dustin had no attachment to Jameis, so he was willing to trade him. He was on the market day one. And if that's the case, and if Breeze is going to be retiring, you're going to be looking for a replacement anyway. So I think it was easy for any of us to suggest that if Dustin was going to enter this draft, his first pick was going to be for a quarterback if one was available. So I would make the argument that just trading the 1 and Jameis Winston coupled together, guaranteeing you get the quarterback that you have to replace Breeze. Not only that, but the quarterback that you want to. I think that's worth it. And then it's a 2 for Preston Williams, and you can talk about the value there, hit or miss. But I felt like it was a fairly even trade, especially because he would have likely used a first for a quarterback anyway.
Exactly. And do you want to know another absolutely great aspect about this trade that cannot be understated?
What's that?
Because he's a rookie and was drafted high, here's how much Justin pays him every single year for the remainder of his contract. In 2020, $500K. 2021, $500K. 2022, $500K. And 2023, you want to guess?
I'm going to say $550K.
Oh, no, $500.
Oh, dang.
He's paying him for 4 years, $2 million.
And how old is Tua?
Excellent. 22.
That's fantastic.
Yes, that's again another factor that you gotta look at here. When Breeze is getting paid $30 million a year,
with that value, that's a 1 in Jameis Winston by itself. I mean,
exactly. Yep.
I think and Jameis Winston. I mean, you're talking about two users who get their guys. It was just really a perfect fit.
Yeah. That's why I feel like the trade was a good one. I don't think it was as nearly one-sided as some might have seen it.
Yeah, I think there's an argument to be had, especially it's a very subjective discussion. But I know Drew really said the 1 and 2 were really what broke the camel's back here, and I think everyone values draft picks differently. And especially also based on where you are in the file. Early on in the file, people may covet draft picks, or even in the middle of the file. But they seem to lose value the longer you go, especially if people are going to move on to a new Madden. But I think for what the Saints and what the Dolphins were going to do anyway, this really worked pretty well.
Yeah, and the Saints also, with my trade with Lattimore, they don't have a first through third round pick this year, but they have 3 first-round picks next year.
Yep, absolutely.
So once that cap ends up being more grounded in reality, and he's able to finally make some more moves with the team, he's got 3 potential great starting rookies right there.
Yeah.
So I really like what Dustin did, and I don't think he's even close to being done.
No,
With
I agree.
Potential that he can do with that.
Let's head over to the AFC South here, and we'll start with the Titans and talk about a trade they had recently. Defensive tackle Matt Ioannidis from the Washington football team goes to the Titans for wide receiver Corey Davis and a second-round pick. Did you have any thoughts on that one?
I like that one. Justin was really shopping the defensive tackle there, and he and I were in talks for a while. And I had offered a second-round pick, and right after he's like, "Oh no, never mind." And then I'm like, oh, "Okay, someone gave him a much better offer then."
Yeah, Corey Davis isn't a bad receiver to add.
Yeah. Corey Davis is one of those guys that like I looked at offering a trade for, but he's in that weird middle ground of he's good enough that you want him on your team, but not so good that he's like a huge
He's that 2 or 3. He's not a 1 at all.
Yeah, and he's also like he's young enough to like keep for a while, but not young enough to turn into a star.
Right.
So
So star
it's one of
value
those
isn't
guys-
there, but value on the field is.
Yeah. So it was a pretty fair trade getting that, young, high potential defensive tackle, giving up a wide receiver that isn't going to be a huge part of that offense.
Yeah, and then the Titans, I know they were looking for beef on the line. Matt Ioannidis is a good veteran tackle to add. I was in talk with the football team as well, with Justin, for a defensive tackle before Marcel Darius was available in free agency. And so I was kind of in on that too, and I had caught wind of the Titans making a move, so I backed out with Marcel Darius on the team. But I think it's a good pickup for both, because Justin gets a second round pick as well as a capable wide receiver, we'll say, and then Titans get somebody to plug in up front, an instant starter on the line. So I thought that was a decent value.
Yeah, I can always appreciate people with a position with a lot of talent in turning it into a draft prospect and also fill a position of need.
Yeah. Let's go over. Jacksonville's been making moves.
Yeah, the Dalvin Cook trade.
Dalvin Cook, and who just recently signed a 4-year, $46 million deal to play in Jacksonville, along with Leonard Fournette, who returned to the team after being, spited for a week, and then coming back. So Dalvin Cook and Leonard Fournette, what a great 1-2 that is over in Jacksonville.
Jordan has returned to the chat.
Oh, welcome, Jordan.
There he is.
We're talking Jags now. What'd you think of the Dalvin Cook signing?
I love the Dalvin Cook signing.
25-year-old Leonard Fournette, 25-year-old Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook
I think it's a
locked
shame
in.
that he got Leonard, but
It's interesting because you have both of them now. I mean, I don't know if Leonard's going to re-sign as well, but you've got, it's like Le'Veon Bell, only younger, with Dalvin Cook over there.
Yeah, and that also includes the injuries, because that seems to be the worst thing about Dalvin Cook, apparently, is he is one of those running backs that seems to get hurt a lot. So I can see why as talented as he is, if you can trade him away for more assets, you do. But if you have a guy like that and Leonard Fournette, the injuries are a lot less of an issue, because if he goes down, you still have someone you can rely on to be the bell cow.
True. I think that makes a lot of sense. I'm curious to see if Fournette stays. Is he going to pay two backs big money?
We'll see. I feel like with how often his running backs get hurt and with how much he uses them, if he doesn't keep Leonard Fournette, it's because he's got a better running back he's got in mind.
That's true. That's
how I feel.
The other big trade that the Jaguars made, they just recently acquired defensive end Leonard Williams from the Giants for a third and future fourth. What did you guys think of that trade?
I am not. Go ahead, Ty.
The funniest thing about that was I completely forgot that he got traded to the Giants from the Jets. So
yep,
I was like, "Is this the same Leonard Williams? Like, he's drafted by the Jets, right? Not the Giants." And I had like a minute of just existential, like, whoa, what's real? But then I came back to reality. But
yeah.
That was a pretty good one because he got a value player for, third and fourth for a player like that is kind of a low price.
It's a low-key value trade by Matt. That's the crap he does that builds Super Bowl teams. Like, I saw that and I liked it, especially because I'm oddly rooting for Matt now. But signing Leonard Williams for a third and a future fourth, just value-wise, I liked it. Giants didn't do bad, but I like Leonard Williams under Matt's lock and key.
Well, like Jacques said in the league news, it's one of those trades where, sure, he gets a third and a fourth back, but he also gets cap space back, which can't be understated.
That's a good
Especially
point.
when you're trading away a position that you don't value. Like, he doesn't value defensive linemen nearly as much as linebacker.
Right.
So you may not get the immediate return for what his value could be, but that cap space can bring in someone that will.
Yeah. Now, I want to get to, while we're on the topic of Jacksonville and Jordan's here, I want to get on to talking to him about acquiring DJ Chark, wide receiver, defensive tackle RB Jones, a third-round pick, all of those going to Denver for a first-round pick, a second-round pick, and a first-round next year. Jordan, talk about that trade. What went through your mind with that acquisition?
So, not being very familiar with Madden21 and its gameplay, someone I held probably in one of the highest regards from last file was DJ Chark. He offered everything that I, as someone who really appreciates the receiver position, because in my years of football, that's what I love to play.
Right.
And he just always came down with the big catches. I think he almost single-handedly brought you the divisional series win.
Yep.
If you will.
Yep. No, absolutely.
Other than I failed to pick up the name, but there was one big catch we all know about that won you a game.
Mike Evans.
Yeah, Mike Evans. I think that DJ Chark single-handedly kept you ahead of that division series in the last files.
Oh, interesting. Yep.
In my early negotiations with Matt, he said that Chark was already on the table for someone else, and I had a strong feeling that it was one David Ranlett from the New England Patriots.
I didn't even know he was available.
And in hearing that, I kind of let it go for a little bit, thinking that he was already gone. And then another trade was kind of Philip Lindsay was brought up again, and I just really dove into getting Chark. And I said, what would it take? Because I don't value draft picks as nearly as much as many do here.
We were having a talk about that while you were gone, as far as how people value those differently. So that's interesting you say that.
I don't have a solid history in the draft, successful history in the draft. Not that I've always gotten duds, but just not worth it to me in getting experience if I have that cap available.
Sure.
So, trading away the draft picks wasn't a huge deal to me. They are much more valuable to a Matt than they would be to myself. So,
sure.
I saw an opportunity in a 24-year-old Chark who's
a good receiver.
Is up for a contract, but he's a young man, and his contract kind of breaks in that period where it's right before he is necessarily an elite receiver. So I'm hoping that kind of pays off in renegotiating.
I mean, you could argue if you could take one of those first-round picks and get Chark out of it, right there is a win.
Yep.
I mean, yeah.
Yep.
And then,
I'm very much a bird in hand is worth two in a bush kind of guy. So
sure.
If I see a Chark and a couple of draft picks that could be bust or be a Chark,
you'll take the known quantity.
Offer.
Yeah.
But noting Chark has been nothing but disappointment in the short time I've had him.
2 weeks, no Chark.
2 weeks, no Chark. He's had opportunities on catches. granted, it was already obviously a blowout, but there was a possible momentum shift in the game versus Dustin, where, up until that point, it was obviously, rightfully so, no chance at winning.
Sure.
But there was a part right after half where I think I scored, and then he had the ball, and I forced a turnover in my own red zone.
Oh, wow.
And so I recovered a fumble, and then my very next play, I threw it to Chark. He made the catch and fumbled the ball for another turnover. So,
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was
That's a killer.
in the chat, the heartbreaker that I was mentioning.
Ah.
Not that I thought I had a chance in getting back, but at least to make it something
Make it more competitive.
not so depressing. Yes.
Sure. And then you also get RB Jones and a third for that. So I mean, for your 1 and 2 and 1, 2 first rounders, you get a wide receiver that you're hope. I mean, it's early, and I can tell you, Chark is going to be worth it for you because he's a prototypical stud receiver, and RB Jones isn't a bad value defensive tackle. And a third gives you a little bit more draft capital for losing 3 picks. I like the trade. I'm scared of Chark with you down the road.
So,
go ahead.
If we can, because when my son so rudely interrupted me,
Yeah.
I don't know how far we are beyond talking about teams.
We're not too far. We're just talking trades now. Yeah.
So with my team, as I was saying, if this was Madden 20,
Yeah.
I think I could do a lot of damage with this team.
Where it is now.
Offensively,
Yep.
it's strong in all points where I need it to be.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, my receivers were strong to begin with, but I was kind of missing the speed and size that I prefer.
Yeah.
And then I already had Hamler on my wide receiver depth chart, so I moved him as if he was a Paris Campbell.
Sure.
And he's already been my best running back, on top of already having 2 solid running back. And then defensively, I picked up that Abry Jones. And defensive tackle I was pretty weak at, so I moved Jarrell Casey over to defensive tackle.
Do you run a 4-3?
I run a 3-4.
Oh, okay.
Generally.
Yeah.
But I have Vaughn and Chubb on the outsides, so they compensate for kind of the interior.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just happy to have that strong interior. And then defensive backs. If I were to get used to the change of direction feature and be able to roam the field as comfortably as I used to be able to,
Mm-hmm.
I feel my defensive backs are strong. I moved Simmons from safety to cornerback.
Yeah.
And my top 3 cornerbacks are all mid-80s or right around there.
Right.
And my safeties are high speed and decent tackling, which is what I value at that. So it's just a matter of me getting used to the new gameplay. I think
you just got to adjust to the game.
On top of taking the break off from the last season or 2 seasons, whatever it was,
Yeah.
my team is probably rated like a 79 right now, but it's kind of like catered to the
Your
strengths
style.
where I like them. I got experience and talent where the CPU plays, and physical attributes where I use her. So it's just tuning it in.
I really like the fit for you with that team. I think, and honestly, based on all the users in the league, if there's a user here that I think that's going to adjust quickest, I think once you figure it out, all the gears are going to immediately fit into the right places. Once you understand what you're supposed to be doing, you return to being a scary user, especially with the team that suits you, like you just mentioned, pretty well suits you already. I really think you're going to just continue. I think the early part of this year, and maybe this whole season, will be a grind for you, but I think you're going to be, like with the Colts, long-term scary. And you've got a lot of youth, a lot of weaponry, and I think Chark, long-term, is a great fit for you, and you could probably sign him for a very affordable deal.
Yeah.
But if you don't want him, New England could always use more receivers. So, moving on, there was one other topic I wanted to talk about. Jordan, I wanted to mention the Philip Lindsay to Giants for Jabril Peppers, a 4th and a 7th. What did you have with that?
So that, I think, was probably my most effective trade.
Yep. Jabril Peppers is great.
I understand that he is not a spectacular player. But again, I don't really pay much attention to overall.
Mm-hmm.
I look at players and across their ability line or stat line on what, if I'm using them, they can do, or if I'm not using them, what they can do. So I had a few nibbles at Von Miller, but I don't use her outside linebacker very often unless I'm covering.
Sure.
But I don't pass rush. So I like that, knowing that if the CPU is controlling him, I don't have to worry about that. He's going to do what he can do.
Right. You get a pass rush for free in a sense.
Exactly. As opposed to the CPU controlling Jabril Peppers, who isn't very strong in coverage. Physically, he has all the abilities, but I know if I'm in a dime if I'm in a dime or something with a sub linebacker and I'm controlling Jabril Peppers, as we saw even against Dustin, I pulled out a pretty decent interception on him.
Right. That was awesome to watch.
Early on in the season, he's already been kind of the only thing that's been keeping me mentally in this new game. Just he's making the tackles. I've sent him on blitzes a few times, and
he continues to cut out because of those flippin' bikers. There he's back.
Kind of like a player that is always there.
Yeah.
And it might just be made up in my mind or not, but I feel like every now and then you get a player that somehow is just always in on the play no matter what, whether they're 69 overall or 95 overall. They're just, for some
value
reason,
them being there. Yeah.
Always on the play. And coming out of college, not that I'm a big college fan, but I like any player that can be versatile and used all over the field, and,
Sure.
and he's one of those. I mean, as special teams, as linebacker, as safety, and that the Jabril Peppers was a bigger trade than the Chark one for me specifically.
Wow. Yeah. No, I think that it added instant value.
Okariki too.
So, Ty, something I wanted to ask you, get kind of your input on here, is a couple things, because you're in the NFC, unlike Jordan and I. So what are your thoughts on Jacques having Philip Lindsay and Barkley in the backfield?
Well, he's going to be a tough opponent. Not even, he's going to have that consistent running game, burn off the clock, and then play lockdown defense on you style. He's going to have a really good start.
Yeah.
I actually messaged him, being all like, because after that trade happened, I was like, okay, well, Barkley's gone, and I need to see if I can put something together. Yeah, but no, he's staying put. He likes to have that, those running backs that he can rotate, and there was no way I could give him an offer that wouldn't also break my own heart giving something up. So
right.
It wasn't going to happen.
Then he goes out and trades a second to Miami and acquires Jakeem Grant, speedy wide receiver.
Yeah, I saw that. That was originally when I saw that, I was like, I didn't know he was on the Giants. Okay, but then I saw that it was from the trade. That little shifty dude is going to be...
I apologize. I cut out every few minutes.
No problem, bud. That's fine.
All right.
We can adjust.
Yeah.
But with sending Philip Lindsay...
Yeah.
That's a position that somehow I had Melvin Gordon, I had Philip Lindsay, I had Royce Freeman, and I knew that Hamler was going to running back.
Right. So you had a stockpile.
I had a stockpile of a position that I really
don't value.
don't value. And I value Hamler at running back much more than I value Lindsey at running back.
Sure.
So in my eyes, especially with Lindsey being on a contract year, I got Jabril Peppers for a player I didn't plan on re-signing. And you know, Jack got a great running back, and I don't see Saquon going back. I'm hoping that he uses him for some capital. But
yeah, it looks like he's going to keep both in tow and just hammer it.
Yeah, maybe.
We'll see. Ty, the only other trades I wanted to get to as well was just talking about, you know, you shipping Patrick Peterson to Dallas, acquiring Marcus Lattimore. Just kind of talk throughout that secondary adjustment and how that all went down.
Well, yeah, all of that was basically just acquiring picks in this next draft and then making my defensive backfield set for the future.
Yeah.
Having you know, I couldn't decide if I wanted Simmons to be a safety or have him convert to middle linebacker like he's playing in real life, but I decided I'd do the compromise and have him at safety and put him in the sub linebacker and nickel packages and all that. And so I could move him around like how he was in college. But having him, Lattimore, and Shinobi and Buddha all together, it's great to have a really vital position group set.
Yeah.
From that on. And the only real old person that I have to worry about now on my team is Chandler Jones.
Yep.
Who himself is already going to be an impactful player for the next few years, even if it's something going to be playing at defensive end soon.
Right,
But
right. Still has value.
All that was,
Not a bad pain to have.
Yeah, all of that was about making the team younger and setting it up for the future because the roster still needed a lot of work.
Now, I was watching this very carefully, especially in the league news part of the Discord there. Kenyon Drake knocking down Devonta Freeman to the number 2 back and winning the starting job. How has he been?
I can actually run with Drake, and like I said earlier, I expect to be embarrassed for that statement once we finish this and I play that game, but I really expected Freeman to be the guy because he's got high change of direction, high spin, high juke, and he's a tiny guy that can move around, but
Yep.
he seems to be a guy that I can break off like 3 broken tackles with him and get 8 yards, but then every other time I get tackled right away. With Kenyon Drake, I'm able to more consistently make people miss.
He has that burst
make
right off.
plays out of it. Yeah, I was really looking to trade him, but now feel like he's going to be the guy for the next few years.
Awesome. Well, before we go on to week 1 games, did you guys have any other trades, league news, things you want to talk about around the league before we carry on?
I'm all set.
Ty?
Just a shout out to Isaiah Simmons, week 1 rookie of the year, or rookie of the week.
Rookie of the week, Isaiah Simmons. That's fantastic. Not a bad start for the young guy.
Not at all. 2 picks in a row.
Yeah.
Amazing. Made me happy.
So, week 1. We had quite a few fun games to watch, and Jordan, break us down. Let's talk about Titans Broncos, and let's get your thoughts before we give ours.
Okay. So, those of the users that watch, I apologize.
People in
Or
fantasy
you're
football that
welcome.
had Locke on their team are in shambles right now.
I honestly started off the game feeling okay.
Felt pretty confident.
Not so much confident, I guess. I just didn't see a blowout in my future.
Sure.
I played, just face a franchise kind of stuff, just kind of getting a feel for the game. I hadn't played any head-to-head, but one thing I didn't compensate for was that face a franchise, I think, is designated in pro or whatever.
Sure.
But change of direction did not make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that may be the theme of me getting used to this game.
It's less arcadey and more sim, I think, is the mode difference. It goes from arcade or competitive to sim style, which is what the league is set in.
Yeah, and I I noticed some changes playing at first, but I think I ended up throwing an interception.
Oh. Them dang bikers again got Jordan. I'm sure he'll be back in a minute. Ty, did you watch the game?
Yeah, it was one of those games to where, with his play style and with the inevitable adjustment period to the new...
I think at that point, it was just a bad decision. Mm-hmm. So, my bad, no problem.
Sure, you can swallow that.
And pretty quickly, I followed with the Jabril Peppers interception.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, I'm like, okay, it's kind of coming back to me. I haven't played in quite a while, but I'll get a handle on it. And then that's when it all went downhill.
And then the tide turned.
Defensively, they changed up the kind of adjustments button.
Yes.
Which is a big struggle for me at the moment.
Yeah. Right bumper to the left.
Especially when you're seeing things and you try to react quickly. So once you're in the snap, you may be on the wrong player, wrong position, and that proved to be pretty painful to me.
Yep.
But if you have played me or you haven't, I am not going to give in and just try to run out the clock if I'm losing.
No, you're going to sling it.
I'm going to sling it. I don't care if I throw 2 or, as we saw, 10 interceptions. It's just I'm not throwing out the white flag.
Which I commend you for.
And the biggest pain was that this change of direction seems to be the theme, but I did not see that with Dustin as user. And I understand that him being the most recent Super Bowl winner, is that correct?
Yeah.
I understand that his level of play is going to be much higher than where I'm at, taking time off.
Right.
But
that makes sense.
His safety covered the way you could cover the field in Madden
19 with a linebacker?
No, 23. Is that... What was the one...
Oh, he cut out again.
Yeah, I think he's talking about Madden 25.
Oh, Madden 25. Yeah.
That's when we started this.
Yes.
Yeah, Madden 25.
There was no... he would be with his safety on the right hash, and I would be running an out with my tight end on the left, and
I
he
saw
would
that
get
play.
there.
Yep. He went right over.
And so I was reading opens, and it wasn't the defensive backs that were covering that particular receiver, but he was just there every time. And if anything was frustrating in that game, aside from losing 64-7,
sure,
it was that I would see stuff on the defensive side and couldn't get there, and I felt like he was at every opportunity. So.
Yeah, I learned something from that game, too. I noticed, and this might be part of the whole passing game mechanic that's changed, it takes the ball longer to get down the field.
Yes.
So you have to factor that.
They changed the physics of the ball being in the air, and you really notice that in pitches and options now, and to the point to where some plays are actually broken. I've kind of had to find that out the hard way.
Huh.
Because the timing is based on what it used to be like, but there's this one triple option play where every time you do it, it just throws behind the running back, and then it's the bump.
That's just thanks, EA.
I had to remove that. But was Adoree Jackson the guy you were talking about that got everywhere?
I honestly don't know. It was whatever player he was using, and it may have been Adoree Jackson, but I thought Adoree Jackson was a cornerback.
Yeah.
This
I'm
was a
looking
safety.
Here. Okay, because there's Kevin Byard, who's 90 speed, 87 change of acceleration, but Adoree Jackson is actually going to be an amazing player. 93 speed, 96 agility, and 95 change of direction.
That's ridiculous.
That whole defensive backfield they can move, so
they're going to be
I
good.
can see why you struggled on that, yeah.
And on top of that, I don't know if it was a morale thing, but having a 6'4" Chark or a 6'1" Judy, who's supposed to be a quick slot guy, they just weren't going after the ball. So week one was looking back on it, a frustrating week. I tried to keep it entertaining in the chat during.
You always do.
But it was quite painful to me.
Yeah.
And I did not go to bed until about, oh boy, I don't know, 1 o'clock or so.
Oh boy. Yeah, those kind of losses just flat out hurt. And I mean, you really got the short straw as far as drawing one of our sharpest users of late too. Dustin's been on a roll, and I mean, we all voted on our best users in the league. He was number 2 right behind Matt for good reason. I mean, and you're 2 years out of the game. So I mean, it was I expected him to win, but that was just unfortunate. Hey, welcome back.
Yep. And that's part of the having fun with it. I knew it was my first user game.
Right.
In a new game.
If this was 5 seasons
top
in,
user.
flags would be raised.
And what I was surprised was, I know we're not in week 2 yet, but I did have a head-to-head game with Ty.
Yeah.
And I understand that he was doing some new stuff, but I started getting a feel for that game, and that just did not translate into my
season
CPU game against Steelers. So.
Right. Well, I mean, practice makes perfect. 2 games. I mean, you played, 4 preseason games before that, tops?
I think I played 2 of them.
Yeah, so you just don't have the time in yet. That's fine.
One thing, real quick, I do want to suggest, and it's something, because I've had that same issue where wide receivers just don't even try to go for the ball. In some situations, you can't really do this, but if it's an error ball situation, now more than ever, it's important to switch to your wide receiver and move them into position. Because like Dave said, that it takes longer for the ball to get places. Where the CPU of the wide receiver runs isn't always going to be in the best spot, especially if a user's controlling the DB. They're going to try to get into position. So when it's in the air, it's probably a good idea to practice switching to them and moving them into a spot to where tall guys like Chart can get that grab. Because I've had that issue with Hopkins. Like, one-on-one, I'll throw to him, and it's like interception. It's like, what the hell?
And that's something I did historically. Again,
Yeah.
that's mainly why I user-locked, was I got to play wide receiver, being my favorite position.
Yeah.
You got to fight for that position, and that dates back to team play time when I got to Calvin. So,
Right.
I think it's all feel right now, and just don't have that feeling.
Oh, yeah, it just takes time. Just, more practice, more reps.
All right, we'll move on to Pats and Bills. Did either of you guys watch that game?
Pats and Bills?
Not I.
Dave versus Andy?
You mean Pats and Dolphins?
I'm sorry, I wrote Pats and Bills in my... I don't know
You're
what
Pats.
I'm talking about. I'm Pats, but Andy's the Dolphins, not the Bills. I had this written down wrong. So, Pats, Dolphins. Did you catch that one, Ty?
Yeah. I watched bits and pieces of the first half, and then I watched the end because I was out doing dashes, but once it got really close there, I had to pull over. That was a fun one.
Oh, my
He
word.
started off with everything going in his favor.
My goodness, so I'm gonna be flat out honest, and I messaged him right after the game. I foolishly underestimated Andy. I did not expect him to be able to come right back after being gone for forever and actually hang with me, being a lot more experienced. And so I definitely underestimated him. But then you couple that with the fact that my running back fumbles on the first play. He goes downfield and scores, and then I get the ball back, and on my second play of the game, Xavier Howard cuts in front of N'Keal Harry for an interception, and then he goes downfield to score 14-0. So suddenly, he's not as bad as I thought he was, and I've spotted him 14 points. My heart was pounding the rest of the game. Like I was 2 offensive plays in, and I was standing up instead of sitting comfortably. And I have to give a shout out to Andy. I mean, for the most part, he played old school Andy ball where it was run it, control the clock, and less turnovers than your opponent. And that was always his kind of rule of thumb, is protect the ball. Fortunately, I have Stephon Gilmore on the team, and he bailed me out with two red zone interceptions in the game, and Devin McCourty had a third. So my secondary really stepped up. And as I alluded to before, having Marcel Darius in the middle did just enough to stop his run game. He was pounding me up and down the middle, and it seemed like the one or two times I needed the third or fourth, because he was aggressive. He was going for it on fourth down in some cases to really put the pressure on.
A lot.
And so just barely having enough, I really felt like I just barely had enough oomph to get a couple stops. But he was running down my throat a lot more uncomfortably than I expected. And he gave me a great game. I was able to finally figure out the offense. Cam Newton was able to sneak one in, and then I was able to score to Edelman to tie it up. But what scared me was before I got the go-ahead touchdown to take the lead in the game, I had to settle for a field goal with 3 minutes left, and so I was down 14-10, and he was running the ball well, and so I was really kind of banking on my defense to just finally come up with a stop. They did on fourth down, and we were able to take the lead with 30 seconds left. I had no timeouts, and then he was able to go all the way downfield. And it really, the last drive of his game offensively, he really showed he could pass with Jameis as well. So I give Andy a lot of props for not playing in a while and coming in and giving me quite the scare. And then I was able to get it done in OT.
I understand that he wasn't around for the last file very much, and we did the top 16 users. I'm not sure how many included him on the list, but
you were the only one.
Andy is just one of those people that can kind of a plug and play user. He just plays smart and safe enough to win a game while not sacrificing the ability to take over a game. And obviously coming out with a loss, but
whenever somebody loses in overtime, I have to shake
much longer than I.
Yeah, that's a good point. And Andy really is well suited to play whenever. His style reminds me a bit like Matt's, but a little less of the deep ball, unless he's running like a trip tight end, wide receiver, reverse, cornerback, exploitation, deep ball to the third tight end on the left side of the field. Aside from like one of those random gimmicky plays that Andy runs, for the most part, he's very safe, but he's sound. And like I said, if it wasn't for Stephon Gilmore being Stephon Gilmore, I don't win that game. He had 2 red zone picks, so that took away 2 potential more scores for Andy. But that game was a great way to open week 1 for me. It was exciting. It immediately regained my respect for Andy's game, and I think I had 9 viewers in the game, so I think it was the most tuned in to game of the week, which was kind of cool. Always fun when you're part of that.
Oh yeah, when you got all those eyes watching you.
Oh my word! It felt like a Sunday night football game. I'm like, I can't botch this, and I was so. That overtime when I got the ball first, I could barely hold my controller, and I almost blundered a couple times, but thankfully Cam Newton threw it on spot to Lamar Miller, and we were able to take the win. But
I think the Titans-Broncos game started with more viewers, but they
pittered out.
They turned it off after the first quarter.
Well, I say in a year or two that game is going to be worthy of those viewers. But last game we have Packers and Vikings. I only caught a portion of this game. Did you guys see any of it?
I saw bits and pieces of it, and every bits and piece I saw was awesome.
Yeah, they were 35-33 in favor of Vikings or something.
Yep.
Ty, did you watch the game?
Yeah, I watched like the second half. I don't remember what I was doing before that, but
sure.
I tuned in, and it was one of those intense games to where, you really don't know who's going to win. Each of them are making plays here and there, and then the Packers almost came in with that onside kick, and if they do, I think they win. Honestly, the way things were going at the end there. I think they finally figured out that defense, and they were able to just go Aaron Rodgers, gun it at the end type of style. But they couldn't get the kick, which is hard. So you can't blame them for that. It's going to be a fun rivalry seeing those two face off.
It's true. I'm excited to see what happens with them down the road. It was one of those user matchups. I wasn't sure how it was going to be, just because I didn't know Adam as well as or Southern Sam. But it seems like that's gonna be a fun one to watch on the regular.
I think the divisions have been built very, very well.
I appreciate that. I wanted to make sure going into the league, everyone feels like they have a shot, and if you can get to the playoffs, anything can happen. So I'm excited to see it work.
If that was the plan, then you failed, because I do not feel like I have a shot at this moment in time.
Hey, Lynn's not even in the file. You have a shot.
Did his computer win?
I don't know. He's supposed to be joining at some point tonight. He messaged me this afternoon and said he was downloading the game tonight. So if I don't get him into the file today, he'll be in it tomorrow, and he plays Dustin the Saints. So,
awesome.
so he should be in it shortly. But I mean, my goodness, I remember you two having some great games in ML20.
Yes.
For in the playoffs and going for the playoffs. So I'm excited to see down the road what you guys look like. And like I said before, I think out of the users that are still adjusting, you're going to bounce. Once you figure it out, all the rest of the gears fall into place.
Yeah.
So, do you guys have any other stuff to talk about regarding the league, games, news?
Well, who do you guys have being MVP?
For the league?
Drew Lock.
Yep.
Defensive.
Let's see. This is a tough question. I don't know.
It's really early.
It's so early. I'm going to say it's going to be a defensive back. I feel like there's going to be a lot of picks from a lot of players this year, and I think a defensive back's going to take it.
Anyone on the Titans?
I think defense is going to dominate in year one of this file as everyone works on refiguring out the offense. And so I'm going to say a defensive back. Whoever that is, you could flip a coin, but I think DB wins as far as MVP this year.
That's a pretty smart play, given that defense, for the most part, big names have kind of stuck around teams.
Mm-hmm.
And offense is what has been moved around the most.
Yep.
So I still don't think Madden would allow that to happen.
Mm.
But boy, it's definitely going to be a QB.
What do you think, Ty?
See, I've got it between Zeke and Derrick Henry.
They both had a great start to the year. I mean, I was watching
Yep.
Zeke play the Falcons here in week 2, and we'll talk about that later in another podcast. But Zeke has come off to a hot start.
Henry was the only thing that didn't really work for.
Didn't he
Dustin
get
week
hurt
one,
in your
but-
game?
Well, because he
He
got
did.
hurt. Yeah. He had one big run, and then like his second or third, he got hurt.
Yeah. I think you could make a case for a running back. Certainly, Dalvin Cook as well would be what somebody had mentioned. And once Lynn gets a hold of Jacobs again in the Raiders, and who knows, Mixon is now under control of a user with Sam over in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
And that's another game here in week 2, Joe versus Sam. First divisional game they'll have. That'll be one worth watching.
I think offenses are going to be figured out pretty soon here. We got a lot of strong,
high-powered
players that
offensive
can
users.
read defenses, not just in rhythm as I do.
Mm-hmm.
I basically just go in timing and rhythm. But you got like Jack is someone who can read a defense before they even snap the ball. He knows what's going there. So I think offenses are going to probably midway through the season take over.
That'll be interesting to see. I think another one that does a good job, too, of reading a defense is Justin. So good luck, Ty.
There's not much to read. Don't worry.
Well, I've got... do you guys have anything else to add?
No.
All right. The only last thing I have to talk about for the league is a little bit of news. Daddy Leagues for Madden21 is officially out. And they have given us a discount for renewing our subscription this year if we want to. So it's $24 for a renewed
Can you update
subscription.
Data Leagues, please?
Well, I will once we have it. So if we are interested in renewing Daddy Leagues and getting that a part of the league again, please, when you finish this podcast, go into the podcast Discord channel and give this podcast a thumbs up. The thumbs up will represent yes, you're in for Daddy Leagues, and yes, you'd like to contribute. Because if we can divide this cost and everyone pays like $30, then I mean, goodness, we're out a cup of coffee for Daddy Leagues or whatever. So give it a thumbs up, and that'll signify to me, hey, I'm interested in helping out with it. And if not, we'll find a way to get it. So Daddy Leagues is back. I just checked today. They are officially hosting Madden21 leagues, so it'd be good to have that back. There's a couple alternatives out there. I've looked at them. I'm not a huge fan. Matt is running a different one in Gridiron Grinders. If there's enough votes for that one, I don't remember what it's called offhand. But if you're interested in that, let me know as well. But yeah, outside of that, I want to thank you guys for getting the file started off. It was a great week one. A lot of games worth watching. And it's going to be fun to see how all the users trickle out. And also I should give a thanks to Dustin G, who's for the first time here doing the user versus user chart. So we'll have records of everyone's success in the league, and that might play a big role in deciding our top users after this file. So
Dustin should get an unsung hero kind of award or something.
Dustin, so I've already decided, after the sacrifices he's already made, Dustin is going to be in commissioner rank with choosing his team next file. So he will.
Awesome.
He deserves it for the hit he took for this file and the fact that he's laying out for the user versus user record. So he's going to get his choice of team next year, and then the commissioners will follow suit, which I think is fair for all the work he's doing. And,
For sure.
Yeah. So Ty, thank you for joining us tonight.
Of course.
And Jordan, honestly, you've been one of my most favorite guests, even with you cutting in and out. I'm glad that you finally got on a podcast, and I definitely want to have you back.
I'm only here so I don't get fined.
Well, with that said, thank you guys. We'll see you in week 2 and week 3. I imagine around week 4 will be the next time we'll be podcasting. Maybe week 5 if people are playing their games quickly. But yeah. Thank you guys so much.
Huck it or suck it.
Huck it or suck it from Jordan. Ty, good luck today against the football team. And I get to go play Derek's Seahawks, who Derek is not joining until the 13th. So he won't be here for another week or 2. Perfect. Guys, have a great night.
Good night, guys.